This video is sponsored by Squarespace. All right, so Skydio 2 versus Mavic 3 tracking. This is probably a video I should have done right when the Mavic 3 came out, as this drone got a massive overhaul to its obstacle avoidance system, as well as ActiveTrack, bringing it up to ActiveTrack 5.0. So these two drones now are the best tracking drones that you can purchase, but which one is better? I actually need to know for myself because I'm about to go on a little ski trip. So I need to bring one of these drones with me that is the best tracking drone if I want to track myself or a friend. So let's put these drones head to head and see which one does best. All right, so I figured we'd get things started here with the Skydio 2, as this is the reigning champion of tracking drones. So we are going to kind of ride on my one wheel here along the same course, the same path, to see how both drones fare along the way. Now, the reason I say that Skydio 2 is the reigning champion of tracking drones is because it is. I mean, this is the best drone that you can buy right now for tracking. And let's talk about age of these drones. Like, the Skydio 2 is coming up on 4 years old, and it still is at the top when it comes to autonomy and tracking. One of the reasons is because I've got this small beacon. I can tell it, hey, I need you on my left side. It's instantly there. I can say, hey, I need you on my front. It instantly flies to the front. And then I can make it go and fly right towards the back again. So the beacon makes it really easy to control the drone, tell it where you want it to go. And also, you can throw it inside your pocket. Like, it's small. You don't need this big, massive controller. Now, I do have my phone here with me screen recording, just so you guys can kind of see what my phone sees or what the drone is seeing. You wouldn't have to use this exact setup that I have here in order to actually track with the Skydio. You could literally just use the beacon here. But again, when we're starting to talk about like the snappiness of the drone, I could tell it, hey, I need you in the front, and it instantly gets there. I mean, it says, hey, all right, you need me in the front, I'm there. It's instantaneous. This is really, oh gosh, this is really a drone that was built for autonomy. And we'll get more to that when we kind of fly the Mavic 3. I'll kind of touch on why I enjoy the Mavic 3. But again, like this drone, built for autonomy. Can put it over here on the right. There it is. Like everything that went into designing lost me a little bit there. All right, there you go. I noticed I've been flying it a little bit along this golf course, and whenever I go over onto the right side or around that corner, it seems to always fly above me, which is strange. But this drone was built entirely for autonomy. All the features that are built for it, all the accessories, everything, right? Like the beacon. Also, there's the height floor, which right now is disabled. So the height floor basically tells the drone, hey, you have to stay above 8 feet, and that's just for the safety of people around you if you've got the drone tracking you. But right now, I've got the height floor off. So the drone is actually able to fly under trees, under branches, and whatnot to continue to follow me. Now let's talk about these branches, because that's a big thing that is kind of, obvious. There's no leaves on the trees. The branches are thin. So as we ride along this golf course, it's going to be really interesting to see how the drone fares in terms of dodging and avoiding not only trees, but also like thinner branches. So for example, I have the drone tracking me on my right. There's a tree up here on the right. I mean, let's see what the drone decides to do. So it looks like it wanted to go underneath the tree to continue to follow me, which is good, right? I've got that height floor disabled, so the drone knows it can fly under 8 feet and then continue to keep up with me. So I'm now going to switch it to follow me from behind. By the way, we're using the Skydio 2, not the Skydio 2 Plus, so this doesn't have that upgraded antenna system. It just has the regular antennas. But for tracking, I mean, you don't really need the antennas because the drone stays so close to you. It's so funny, like when I'm riding and I've got the drone behind me, the Skydio is like one of those drones that I know I don't need to look behind me to check out where it is. We do have some low-hanging branches here. So it saw those branches, especially the thin branches, came to a stop, went under, and then continued to follow me, which is cool. Now we have a little bit of a tree canopy coming up here, so it'll be interesting to see how the drone fares in handling this. Went underneath the tree, nice move, and continue to stay under the trees. I'll tell you what, my one wheel, my little pint, for some reason does not like hills. I could be riding my boosted board, which is a little bit faster. Okay, so I figure trying to think about a good route that we can run. Let's go ahead, we'll go to the right here, we'll kind of end at the cul-de-sac, and then we'll go and we'll run that same test using the Mavic 3. Specifically speaking, we'll be flying the Mavic 3 Classic. So again, we can go ahead and tell it to zip to the front. It'll zip around under the trees. So giving it a little bit of an obstacle course to try to get to the front now. It does its best at going around trees and then goes and beams its way to the front. That's awesome. You know, it's funny because like this portion of the video might seem a little bit boring because the drone we already know is so good at tracking that it's not going to crash. And while the Mavic 3 has made some serious improvements, DJI has made improvements to the Mavic 3, it'll be interesting to see how that drone fares in terms of tracking, especially along some of those tighter areas. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up here with our tracking flight of the Skydio 2. Before we move on to the Mavic 3 though, let's hear a quick word from this video sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is a platform that I've personally been using before I even started posting videos to my YouTube channel here 6 years ago. I first built my portfolio using Squarespace's platform because of their templates that are stylish, functional, and easy to customize. I didn't need to learn how to code, I didn't need any previous experience, and I didn't need to spend an exorbitant amount of money to hire someone to build it from scratch. Instead, I was able to work at my own pace, choose my best photographs to add to my site, and customize my template to be exactly the way that I wanted. In my case, I have a simple design with a black background and minimal text to keep the focus on the images. Squarespace goes even deeper with detailed analytics so I can see who's looking at my website. They have integrated SEO tools so that I can get my work seen by more people online, and if I choose to do so, I could start an online store right within Squarespace's platform to sell prints, presets, or anything else photography related. So a special thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, helping me display my work online for over half a decade. All right, so next up is the Mavic 3 Classic. In order to enter ActiveTrack, we'll go ahead and drag a box over ourselves. It'll pick us up. We'll tap on ActiveTrack and then go. So now the drone is completely flying by itself. Now we do have a car, so we're going to speed up here a little bit. My one thing I like about this drone when it uses ActiveTrack and it flies by itself is how smooth and cinematic it is, right? Like, it's kind of two completely different platforms. What I really enjoyed about the Skydio is that it's fast, it's snappy, it's able to, you know, change directions quickly, but this, in my opinion, looks like better usable video. Now, this is going to be a tough spot for the drone to try to go through with all these branches, but this is just the beginning of the test because we do have a good amount of other challenges for it. Now, another thing is that this drone seems to be very cautious in terms of what it wants to do. So, like, it always lags back and lags behind a little bit, but what I've seen improved with DJI's ActiveTrack over the years is that it's able to continue to track its subject even from further away. So even though I was further away, it still knew where I was. I was wearing a gray sweatshirt on a, you know, gray blacktop. That part's tough. Now let me show you here. I can pop up on the screen right here and make it fly to my right, and the drone will fly to the right, but notice, like, it's not as snappy. See, it's giving me actually an error here saying that it's going to move directions when I start to fly or when I start to move slower. So it's not as snappy as what you'd get. Whoop. Not as snappy as what you'd get with the Skydio, but again, I think that it's just a little bit more cinematic. It is a little bit close too, but what's cool is that because I have my controller, I can actually go and move the stick backwards to make it fly a little bit further away from me, so that's nice. Seems like the drone just kind of is lagging behind there. Now this, in my opinion, is going to be the biggest test for the drone. Come on. It's flying very slow. Again, the Skydio was like right up on top of me. So it took the route of flying directly over the bridge. Now remember, I have it set to fly to my right now, but it's flying basically behind me. Let me go and switch it to the rear. So I mean, it's doing a good job at tracking, but in my opinion, it's just lagging behind so far. Like, I want it to be closer to me. All right, it's doing a good job at dodging these obstacles. And again, DJI's algorithm has gotten so good at being able to, DJI's algorithm has gotten so good at being able to continue to track the subject as you're moving further away from, the drone. So even though I'm farther away from the drone, it's still able to pick me up. Oh, it's going behind the trees? Okay. It's almost pulling the Skydio there, going behind the trees. But yeah, so my biggest thing that I like about the Mavic 3 is that it's kind of like autonomy with a pilot-centric focus. So they built a drone that, for me, I can go and fly, manually using my RC Pro and love every minute of it, but there is a little bit of autonomy sprinkled in there. It just is slower. It's more cautious than the Skydio. Now, DJI did upgrade their sensors in the drone, which really is what makes ActiveTrack a lot better. Ooh, man, it looked like it got very close. I think my one wheel is about to die here also. It's really puttering along. That was like the final thing I wanted to see. No, I don't think we're gonna have enough juice to get all the way up the hill. I have such a love-hate relationship with this one wheel. It's so good, but also so bad. All right, this battery is dying on me, so why don't we run inside and break into some final thoughts on Skydio versus Mavic 3 tracking. All right, so now that we finished up with our side-by-side tracking comparison using DJI's ActiveTrack in their Mavic 3 and Skydio's Motion Track in the Skydio 2, it's now time to dissect what we learned from this video, as well as bring in some other thoughts to kind of determine which of these drones is going to be right for you. Now, personally, I don't think that there is a best tracking drone. The reason I say that is because both of these drones handled the course, handled the flight very well. They didn't lose me. They didn't crash. Nothing happened to these drones while I was flying them, so both of them did the task properly. I think it just comes down to personal preference. Now, personally, I prefer the Mavic 3. I think that it's a lot more smooth when following you. I think the video looks a lot more clean compared to the Skydio that's a little bit more jumpy. Like, you'll notice that even though it tries to keep up with you, it's very jumpy going around obstacles. Sometimes it doesn't center you in the frame. So personally, from a video aspect, I think that the Mavic 3 Classic gives you a better final result in the video. It just flies a little bit more smooth when it's tracking you. But with that said, the Skydio has a lot of these niche tracking features built in that make it, I would say, a more superior option when it comes to feature set when you're actually having the drone follow you. For example, the beacon, as I mentioned, it would be great to just throw this in your pocket, forget about it, and have the drone follow you, as compared to a larger controller, say, on the Mavic 3. Like, wouldn't it be nice if you could lock the controls on the Mavic 3 so you could throw it in a backpack? But you wouldn't want to do that because if it presses the screen or moves one of the joysticks, then the drone will obviously be thrown off course, and you can't just disconnect the remote because then it'll fly back to the home point. So the beacon is great. Also, you have things like the height floor, the height ceiling, right? So there's a lot of things built into the Skydio that make it, in my opinion, more of like a tracking centered drone, right? It has a bigger feature set. But personally, when it comes down to that final result, the video that you get to post, I think the Mavic 3 is the winner in my book, just because it provides you with a little bit more smoother video. Also, thinking about both of these drones when it comes down to the time where you actually want to fly the drone, I think the Mavic 3 Classic is far superior in terms of photo quality, video quality, flight time, range, right? So this is definitely a drone pilot's drone, but it's got great tracking features built in that definitely rival the Skydio 2. So when it comes down to like which of these drones I'd recommend, it would definitely be the Mavic 3 Classic, because it can do everything that the Skydio can in terms of giving you that great tracking experience, as well as an awesome experience if you actually want to fly the drone and take some photos and videos for yourself. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below based on what you saw in this video, and maybe some things you've seen in other videos or personal experience when using either of these drones for tracking. And as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.